Welcome. Hi, I'm Abby Dean. I'm Employer Advisor's Director of Content. This webinar is Pharmacy Benefits 101, what employers need to know about PBMs and drug spend. And this is an especially exciting webinar because we are partnering with our friends at Traveris to talk about this topic. So thank you so much to them. It's really exciting. And if you guys are coming to this webinar for the first time from the Employer Advisor side or the Traveris side, welcome. We're so excited to have you. Even more exciting, however, are these speakers we have for today. So you'll see on this next slide, we have Ryan Storey. Ryan, for Traveris, Ryan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Abby. Appreciate it. And welcome, everyone. Excited to be here today to talk a little bit about pharmacy benefits. As mentioned, my name is Ryan Storey, and I am Vice President of Pharmacy Solutions and Strategic Accounts here at Traveris. My role, I'm in charge of the development and execution of our suite of pharmacy products to the external marketplace. I'm actually a pharmacist by trade, reside in the ever more chilly state of Indiana, where I have approximately 15 years of experience in healthcare, split between pharmacy dispensing, PBM marketplace, and pharmacy consulting. As mentioned, excited to be here today with the employer team. And that I will allow my partner, Anthony, to introduce himself.
Thanks, Ryan. Hello, everyone. Really excited to be here today. My name is Anthony Waters. I'm the Senior Vice President of Product and Strategy for Employer Advisor. I'm based out of Boston, Massachusetts, so chilly here as well. And I've been in the employee benefits space for about 15 years, working both on the brokerage side as well as the TPA side. So really excited to be here. Thanks.
Ryan, would you like to give our audience a brief overview of Traveris if they are unfamiliar?
No, yeah, thanks, Abby. I appreciate that. And as mentioned, as a brief reminder for anybody who may not be aware, Traveris is a healthcare technology company specializing in pharmacy and increasing access and affordability of prescription drugs to all stakeholders. We accomplish this through our third-party platform, which is uniquely positioned to help employers maximize the value of their pharmacy benefit offering. Pharmacy is all we do here at Traveris. We fancy ourselves as experts in the industry, and we hope through this conversation and hopefully others down the line that we can prove that to everyone on the phone today.
Which is exactly why we wanted to partner with you guys, because that is not our area of expertise. And so we wanted to talk with you. Speaking of that, though, we're going to briefly push out a poll question before I go over a little bit about Employer Advisor. You should be seeing it on your screen in a moment. Basically, we just want to get a quick temperature check of the room. So you should be seeing how much experience do you have with pharmacy benefits. Let us know and we will push out those results when they are ready. While you guys are answering that, a little bit about Employer Advisor. Our mission here is to connect employers looking for health insurance and employee benefits with the top-rated insurance advisors across the country. We have more than 150 brokerage partners, and we have about 15,000 employers using our site each month, and we're really proud of that. That's a brief about us. If we have the poll results ready, we will push those out. In the meantime, we can also briefly go over the agenda for today. Oh, wait, there they are. Okay. Poll. How much experience do you have with pharmacy benefits? Only 10% said very experienced. I'm a pro. 49% said some, but I could use a refresher. Welcome, you were in the right place. 40% said none, and I'm excited to learn. So very good mix. I think you guys are 100% in the right spot, and we are happy to have you here today. So thank you so much. Okay, brief agenda overview and housekeeping. You can see in the bottom, if you guys are familiar with Zoom webinar, if anyone has any questions for our presenters at any time, we want to get those answered quickly and efficiently. So go ahead and put those in the Q&A section. Again, we are going to get as much as we can answered. If we can't get to your question directly, we'll reach out to you guys afterwards. Same for the chat box. If you guys have any tech troubles or anything, go ahead and put a message in there, and one of our Employer Advisor assistants will help you out. Okay, agenda. The role of pharmacy benefit managers, PBMs, We're going to discuss that, and we're also going to provide an overview of the prescription drug benefits landscape. We're also going to be discussing employer challenges and opportunities within this marketplace and how PBMs operate and highlight key contract terms. We're also going to be looking at common questions around pharmacy benefits, and Ryan is going to be providing a brief overview on how to mitigate rising costs and optimize value. Anthony will then be talking about how to assess the competitiveness of your overall benefits plan. So kind of starting small and then starting a little more specific, then branching out. And then we're going to talk about plan design, voluntary benefits, and medical cost sharing. So that's what you have in store for you today. Please let us know if we can help you at any time. But with that, I think we are ready to turn it over to Ryan's portion of the presentation.
Oh, perfect. Thanks, Abby. I appreciate that. And so kicking off here, as we mentioned, it's meant to be a pharmacy benefits 101, though I hope as we go through the material today that we hit upon at least a little bit for everybody in the audience, whether you're brand new to the benefit space or whether you are fancying yourself as a pro. Hopefully there's something in here that you can appreciate here today. So let's start off. Why are we here? Why are we talking about pharmacy benefits? Well, in short, pharmacy benefit administration is complex and expensive. The stat on the slide indicates 85% of employers consider pharmacy one of their predominant concerns, yet feel ill-equipped to mitigate those concerns. I know in the context of my career, I frequently hear questions such as, what vendor or vendors are best suited to meet our needs as an organization? Is there a better way to lower costs without significantly disrupting our members? All of these questions and more have likely been asked from or to most of the audience here in attendance today. Ultimately, we all want to maximize the value of the relationship with all of our vendors, whether that be pharmacy or others. And in the pharmacy space, a primary mechanism to maximize the value is the contractual construct an employer has with their PBM. So looking at it from the highest level, the 50,000 foot view, if you will, we can go back here, sorry. Thank you. So we'll look at what is a pharmacy benefits manager or PBM. As mentioned, at the highest level, a PBM is an organization that contracts with either a health insurance company or directly with a payer to administer and manage prescription drug component of the overall healthcare benefit. Of note, PBMs themselves are not insurance companies, although in today's landscape, some are owned by insurance companies. That's a bit more of a 301, if you will. They typically don't take the risk for the cost of drugs like a standard fully insured health insurance company does. Instead, they administer the prescription drug benefit and negotiate discounts with manufacturers and pharmacies. Ultimately, the PBM's goal is to help their clients lower the cost of prescription medications and improve affordable access to quality prescription drug care. Now, more specifically, of course, as we know, PBMs have many services they provide. The areas shown on this slide represent services provided by PBMs in what we consider their full service contractual relationship. As the market has evolved over the past 10 or 15 years, the growth and value of various PBM services has seemingly adapted the paradigm of what is a PBM. In addition to many of these typical and historical PBM services, such as adjudication of claims or management of drug formularies and retail networks, the importance of services such as specialty drug distribution and management, mail order drug distribution, and administration of clinical programs, namely utilization management and or disease management programs, has added potential areas of opaqueness and cost centers for plan sponsors within their relationships with PBMs. Now, as you can imagine, there is often a correlation between the growth of these particular services and how PBMs make money. While this is not meant to be a comprehensive list, it represents key revenue streams many PBMs use to maximize profitability. We're reviewing the slide on the bookends of the slide, so underneath column 1 and column 5, you'll see administration and program fees that PBMs may charge that are associated with things such as claim adjudication and clinical programs, just to name a couple. These fees are typically articulated across a number of ways, including a given amount per claim or a per member per month fee and or flat fee in some cases. We would consider these to be much more straightforward revenue streams of how PBMs make money, and candidly, over the years, represent a decreasing share of the PBM's gross margin. In the middle of the slide, these remaining areas represent revenue streams that may not be as familiar with, either in their mechanism and or in their magnitude, and if not understood, can reduce the transparency of the relationship. Well, let's go through these one by one here. The first is rebate share. As most on the line may be aware, pharmacy rebates are paid by pharmaceutical manufacturers in return for favorable positioning on PBM formularies. When a plan's membership utilizes these medications, they are often reimbursed all or a portion of these rebates retrospectively. Oh, thank you. So while historically, PBM retention of rebates, for example, if the PBM retains 20% of rebates and the plan receives 80%, was a significant revenue stream, today, a majority of PBM contracts require 100% pass-through of rebates, so i.e. a decreasing revenue share. Having said that, it's important to note that not all monies flowing from a manufacturer to a PBM is considered a rebate for purposes of pass-through. With that, a growing area of PBM revenue is what is noted as administration fees charged to pharmaceutical manufacturers for various services. This, number three, the second is known as pharmacy spread. Simply put, this is the difference in reimbursement a PBM charges a plan versus what they pay a network pharmacy for a given claim. The example shown on the slide represents a difference in discounts provided, which ultimately nets the PBM in this example a 2% spread as compensation for their services. As many on the phone may be aware, the practice of spread pricing has been under intense scrutiny in recent years due to its lack of transparency and perceived cost increases to payers. In fact, today, many plans require, either via their benefit philosophy or even by law, that spread pricing be eliminated in the PBM contracts. As a result, the percentage of revenue generated from this pricing practice has steadily decreased in recent years as well. Lastly, many PBMs have their own mail order and or specialty pharmacies in which they earn profit from the purchase and distribution of medications. As these wholly owned pharmacies have grown in scale, especially from the largest PBMs in the marketplace, they have the ability to acquire drugs at extremely low prices due to their market share. Subsequently, the growing magnitude of distribution of medications from these pharmacies, combined with the extremely low prices that they are able to garner due to their scale, this revenue stream, one that we have seen grow in recent years and is a critical component of PBM's revenue and gross profits. So with that background, I've mentioned the word transparency a couple of times, but why is this construct desirable? Well, as we talked about just a moment ago, the cost of providing pharmacy benefits continues to grow, and the paradigm of PBM profits continues to evolve. This combination itself lends stakeholders wanting to have a more clear understanding of how their money is spent, and hopefully, as a result, a way to mitigate rising costs. The stats on this slide, I believe, reiterate this point. There's the growth of specialty drug utilization and cost, with the average annual specialty drug costing more than $84,000 a year, with some ultra high cost therapies now increasing into the millions of dollars for a single administration. Or the growth in formulary exclusions, which is up 900% since 2012, impacting member access along the way. Ultimately increasing PBM profits twofold since 2015, all have created an environment where transparency is at the center of many of the conversations our teams are having with payers like you. This slide iterates, it's not just us, it's not just a benefit industry speak. This is getting national attention with several government and or watchdog groups having entered the arena with the same goal: to increase transparency in PBM or pharmacy practices. Whether it's the Federal Trade Commission's ongoing inquiry into PBMs or the growing list of state drug pricing transparency laws that come about seemingly every year, these are the utmost importance to many stakeholders in the industry today. So, with all of that being said, what actually is transparency in pharmacy? We tend to define transparency as having visibility into the discrete components and cost drivers of your pharmacy program. Now, that definition is broad, and that's on purpose because it not only encompasses a number of the ever-moving and evolving parts, including but not limited to some of the areas we discussed a moment ago earlier, but also areas that are beyond the scope of this particular conversation. Also, I typically like to describe transparency in a pharmacy program as a spectrum, meaning it's not as simple as simply demanding full transparency at every turn of a given contract or relationship and expecting a valuable result. Obtaining more transparency in your pharmacy program that is actually valuable, because simply being transparent doesn't necessarily mean there's financial value, is an arduous process that requires strategic vision and execution. So what are some of the ways that the market is responding to these demands for transparency? Well, the most tangible way payers are responding to this is in their contractual relationships with PBMs. Now, this includes things such as the demand for pass-through arrangements, whether that be guaranteed discounts or rebates, as we discussed a moment ago, or even different pricing paradigms, such as access to acquisition costs and or the guaranteed cost pricing models that some PBMs are offering in the marketplace. All of these, alone or in combination, have varying levels of transparency as well as financial impact to a client's drug spend. Next, although focus on PBM contracts is candidly nothing new, in today's marketplace with the growing opaqueness, there's an even more intense focus on negotiating clear and concise contractual terms that can reduce ambiguity within the PBM contract. Oftentimes the numbers, for example, discount guarantees or rebate guarantees or administration fees within a contract only tell half the story, maybe even less. The clear articulation and understanding of things such as definitions, exclusions, and other various terms within a PBM contract can not only address the level of transparency achieved, but also impact the realized financial value of that contract. Finally, the philosophy of PBM disintermediation or unbundling has seen growing interest in recent years. With a typical full-service PBM model, including many more areas of opportunity, the consideration of bringing in a specific vendor or vendors to fulfill some of these services can be intriguing. For example, outsourcing specialty drug fulfillment and or formulary rebate management away from the PBM model and with a standalone vendor may help increase the transparency by way of access to data not typically shared by the PBMs. The unbundling of specific PBM services can have a financial impact, not only to those services being considered on a standalone basis, but also to the core PBM contract. So with that in mind, it is critical to carefully evaluate such strategies, ideally with an expert, to ensure any value purported can be realized within the totality of the benefit offering. Now, how exactly do we achieve transparency in pharmacy? And how do we know this transparency is valuable to our plan and our members? Well, we need to be able to have the confidence that these contractual relationships and potential market responses result in receiving the best pricing, contract, and ultimate oversight for the pharmacy program. On this slide, we're aiming to articulate this in what we like to call the pharmacy benefits life cycle. As we know, it's extremely difficult to predict whether a plan will inherit or develop a given high-cost claimant or claimants in a given period. As a result, we often stress the importance of controlling the controllables in pharmacy. The pharmacy benefits life cycle, as I alluded to a moment ago, is fully intertwined and involves of course, procurement of pharmacy services, but also oversight that these services are providing the purported value within the procurement process, as well as ongoing optimization of the benefit offering as experience, market conditions, and/or philosophy changes over the given benefit period. Some of these controllable factors on the right side of the slide include things such as the timing of procurement. For example, timing equals leverage. We would be hard pressed, for example, to start a procurement for January 1st of 2023 today on October 19th. Timing equals leverage. Remember, in a contract negotiation, there's always two sides. And if one side has more leverage, they're able to extract additional value from the process. Introducing optionality into the process. So for example, what type of PBM pricing arrangement or vendors should we choose to include in a given procurement? From an oversight or optimization perspective, are there particular programs that should be selected or removed from the benefit offering that is either purported to erect value or not providing the amount of value that it was originally sought to have? Next, creating dynamic competition. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean more the merrier. With a trusted advisor, we should be evaluating what potential partners are best equipped to meet our goals and philosophy. For example, should an outsourcing vendor be considered? Is that something that may not fit within our philosophy today? Understanding how to create this competition and the vendors and offerings to drive this competition is a strategic evaluation that should be done with an expert. Next, independent oversight. And this equates to not solely depending on PBM reports for oversight. So things such as annual reconciliation reports of guarantees or estimated savings for a given program should be evaluated by an independent third party to ensure that the agreements that were entered into are actually providing the value that they were purported to have. And lastly, member engagement and transparency tools. As we know, we're providing these benefits for members for life-saving medications. So as costs continue to rise, not only for us as payers, oftentimes our plans are experiencing similar increased costs. And the idea to have them engage in their disease management, as well as their adherence to medication, is a critical step to ensuring that the overall benefit paradigm is as valuable as humanly possible. So finally, we want to share a case study of what controlling the controllables can look like for a given client. As a trusted advisor, in conjunction with this particular client, is a food product distributor of nearly 3,000 lives and nearly $3.2 million in annual drug spend, we developed very specific goals for their pharmacy program and PBM contract improvement. Like many clients, they wanted to mitigate costs while maintaining the current level of benefits for their members. As part of this group's benefit lifecycle, and by executing on a number of the controllables just described, we were able to optimize very specific contractual language of importance to them, as well as testing the market to leverage outsourcing of some of these PBM service offerings. Our result? Driving transparency and financial results through a multi-vendor competitive bid process in which we saved this client over 23% compared to their current PBM contract. The key takeaway here is while pharmacy remains complex and an ever-growing area of concern for many here today, with the right strategy and the proper expertise, there remain ways to mitigate these concerns and maximize the value of your pharmacy program. So I hope this brief discussion today has been helpful. And with that, I will turn it over to Anthony.
Right. Well, hello, everyone. Excited to be back here. Sorry, let me just get my video back. We're going to be chatting a little bit about assessing the competitiveness of your benefits plans. Before we kick off, just like our friends at Truveris did, we do have a quick poll. But I think Ryan's section was just a really good dive and look at the role of PBMs. And being cognizant of the season, we want to take a step back and consider the competitiveness of your employee benefits plans as a whole. And so our mission truly aligns with Truveris and their commitment to transparency and empowering data-driven decision-making. So I guess my question here for all of our lovely attendees is, how confident are you in the competitiveness of your employee benefits plans? Are you very confident? Are you mostly confident, but you're unsure how to truly measure the competitiveness? Are you not confident at all, or you just don't have any idea? So if you could just answer the poll, and then we'll be back shortly with those results. Right, and you can post those results if they're ready. All right, so this is interesting. So we have 16% who are very confident that their employee benefits plans are competitive. We have 57%, so the majority that they're mostly confident, but they're unsure on how to truly measure the competitiveness. We have some 12% who are not confident at all, and then some who just don't have any idea. So this is good, and this is kind of what we've seen for the most part. Most employers just truly don't know how to measure it, and there's just not a lot of tools outside of some pretty generic benchmarking that help kind of account for that. So we're going to dive right on in here and kind of jump through. So the importance of talent retention, as well as attraction, really is kind of the impetus for some of this. So we're talking about measuring the competitiveness of your benefits plans, but let's talk about the why. Why is it important? And I think some of the numbers here really tell the story, and some numbers that I just want to kind of call out really quickly. So 56% of adults with employer-sponsored health benefits said that liking their coverage was a critical factor in staying at their job. And then 46% of those respondents said that they actually positively either chose their job or were influenced by the quality of those health insurance. And with 77% of existing employees feeling like benefits are a key part of their compensation, having a benefit strategy and an ability to measure and understand where your benefits stack up is an important part of your corporate philosophy, as well as talent and attraction and retention. The last kind of stat that I'll jump on before we move on is really 51% of the employers that were polled said that using benefits to retain employees will become even more important in the next 3 to 5 years. So as this becomes more important, and it's been a thing, and it's become more important, over the last 5 years to 10 years, having a specific strategy around this is a really important component. And so to some of my folks in my team have the philosophy, if you can't kind of measure something, you can't track it, and if you can't track it, you can't really build a strategy upon it. And so we've set out to start helping companies understand the importance of tracking it and giving them tools to track it. So we meet with HR leaders, CFOs, heads of total rewards, benefits managers, day in and day out. And early on, I think one of the key themes that I kept hearing is that we don't understand how competitive our benefits are, similar to kind of the poll. We have a good broker, we love our broker, we're confident that they're doing a phenomenal job, but I just don't have tools to fully see each part or each component of my plans that we're offering and see how they stack up to similar companies. So we've taken it upon ourselves to really build out some tools that help employers track this information. I think we're going to talk about how to assess each area and talk about the importance of those areas in an overall benefits plan package. And so we're going to actually look at the reporting that we created, and then we'll talk about how to kind of make some of those assessments and the value in those assessments. So we're looking at here on medical benchmarking on the medical side. And some of the key factors to really consider on a medical plan and the competitiveness or overall quality are going to be the employer versus employee contribution percents, the monthly premiums, the copay amounts, deductibles, and then max out-of-pocket amounts. And so you see here, and on the right, we have real data that's being plugged into here. So let's say you're a manufacturing company in Boston, Massachusetts with 150 employees. We're comparing you specifically to other manufacturing companies in Boston, Massachusetts with between 100 and 500 employees. And what you're seeing from this company's plan is on their individual plan, they offer a phenomenal plan. You can see on the right-hand side, the 25th, 50th, and 75th percentile in the box and whisker chart. And their individual plan's phenomenal. They contribute from a percentage above the market, and their plan design is phenomenal. That's well above the market. But if you look at the family side, they're only contributing 60% of the family premium versus the market's contributing 71%. So if I'm an employer, or this employer, they're doing a great job. They're offering overall a very competitive benefits package for individuals. But on the family side, it's not as much. And if you look at their PPO plan, the plan type 2 below, they're only covering 35% of family plans for that plan. So they're overall offering a good medical plan, but there are factors of this plan that if they wanted to, could slightly tweak to make it a better overall plan. Now, if they're employing a ton of families, they're not offering, a great competitive package for those families in the market. So now we're giving employers a way to really kind of assess those specific areas. If we move over to ancillary and the voluntary benchmarking, this has been an area where it's become significantly more important. But again, there's not a lot of competitive intelligence and analytics to kind of help employers make some of these decisions. So dental and vision, very competitive products, highly sought after. And so we can kind of help employers understand, are you competitive in that area? This company offers a full contribution, so they cover 100% of both dental and vision. They have a very competitive plan in the market, well above the market. And then we show those similar insights across ancillary and then the voluntary lines. And so what's really important to understand, and you can jump slides here. Thank you. And what's really important to kind of understand is your strategy and then how your benefits align. It's funny, I'll meet with companies who really feel like having great benefits is a really important thing for their strategy. But when we run their report, they're below the market. So you can see here these target zones. They'll be below the market, but internally, they need to offer great benefits. They're in a tough market, talent's at a premium, and they need to offer phenomenal benefits. And then when we run their assessment, they're below the market. Comparatively, we'll run the same reports for companies who aren't competing for talent. They don't need to offer great benefits because it's not a concern of theirs. They want to offer average or slightly below average benefits. And then when we meet with them and we run this assessment, they're in the top right and they're offering benefits that are well above the market. And that's not doing them any services at all. And so I think as an employer, what the question you need to ask yourself is, and truly understand is, do you fully know how each component of your benefits ranks to similar companies in the market? Then how do you kind of measure that and utilize each area of your benefits plans to design a strategy moving forward around your talent and retention? So it's just a really good tool in the market. There's not a lot of other information to kind of help make some of these decisions. So we just wanted to kind of piggyback along Truveris and provide some more transparency around data and making some of those decisions to make sure that companies were understanding their competitiveness and then how to measure that, and that some tools exist in the market. If you would like a complimentary insights report, or you'd be interested in kind of seeing how your benefits stack up, or if you're a broker and you would like to run a complimentary report for a client, please feel free to email me at anthony.waters@employeradvisor.com. My email address is also in the chat within the next 24 hours, and we'd be happy to get you off a sample report that you can see for your company, or one that you can run for a client of yours if you're a consultant. Thank you all.
Awesome. Thank you, Anthony and Ryan. That was a lot of information and a lot to unpack in a fairly short amount of time. So I really appreciate you guys walking through so carefully and with so much intention. Now we have quite a bit of time for a Q&A, which is very exciting. That's my favorite part. So if you have not yet, please go ahead and enter your questions in the Q&A box. Again, we will answer as many as we can. And if your question is not answered, we will reach out to you individually after the webinar. Okay, so first of all, one we received, Ryan, I'm just gonna guess this one's for you. When is the best time to consider reevaluating or renegotiating your PBM contract?
Without sounding flippant, the answer to that is always, or more pointedly, whenever you can. I mentioned during the conversation about the pharmacy benefits life cycle, and it truly is an ever-breathing thing. It's not something that we have a contract for maybe 3 years. You know what? We're good for a couple. We don't need to worry about it. I always urge employers to always be looking for the next thing, whether that's a bolt-on service or whether there's a potential for a mid-contract evaluation or whether it's an oversight opportunity. We're always gearing up for renegotiating or reevaluating our PBM contract. So the short answer to that is always and whenever you can.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, some more questions coming in. This one is from Nicole. She says, how is this relevant to a small plan? She says 30 participants on, I'll start over. How is this relevant to a small plan on a standard health plan with a large provider, Blue Cross Blue Shield? As far as I know, we just select an overall plan and don't get any sort of pharmacy benefits otherwise.
Yeah, I think that is a fair assessment for very small plans in terms of the potential lack of optionality. Different vendors in the marketplace have different rules in terms of quote unquote carving out their pharmacy benefit. However, even in the paradigm of we have a given health plan, this is who we have to go with. I do think it's important to understand the marketplace and understand where there are levers, that can potentially be pulled, if for nothing else than as a broader negotiation with the health plan and the healthcare benefit. Understanding where there are potential monies to capture may help with a stop loss negotiation, may help with a network negotiation, because we know that there are potentially growing profits on the pharmacy side. And so while we may not be able to pull that exact lever through the description that I articulated today, I do think having the background of how these financial levers can be pulled can be utilized on a larger negotiation structure.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Next question. How hard is it to switch PBMs? We've been with our current one for a while and are concerned about disruption to our plan members if we go with a different option.
I laugh a little bit on that because I've been doing this long enough to know that there's whether on purpose or whether it's inherent, this idea that changing PBMs is this big scary process. And I can tell you, having worked inside of the PBM and helping multiple employers switch PBMs, it's really not a difficult process. Understanding, of course, disruption to members is at the forefront, I think, of probably everybody on this call today. And myself as a clinician, I'm intimately concerned that members may not have access to medication. But the fact of the matter is, in today's pharmacy marketplace, it's standard operating procedure to potentially switch medications. There are always therapeutic alternatives available. So one of my maybe infamous monikers is not all disruption is created equal. Change is a constant of life, right? And changing PBMs is really not as scary of a process as may be purported. These PBMs have multi-million-dollar teams in charge of making that process as smooth as possible. And when combined with an expert that understands the inner workings of PBM operations, it really able to make this process very, very seamless. Again, if we time it out right and we have a strategic plan, really the process is not that difficult to accomplish.
That makes sense. It also makes me think from the employer perspective too, on the importance of, and this may be more for Anthony, but leaning on your employee benefits broker whenever you have questions for any information and data that could help inform decision-making. I think that's something in past webinars we've discussed a lot, and we consistently get questions on too. Anthony, do you have any advice or anything you would say for anyone listening right now who isn't sure? Just any advice for employers on communicating with brokers, especially during this busy time of year?
Yeah, so I mean, it's always good to keep a really open line of communication. Depending on your broker, you likely have your broker, then account management team. I just think being open with your needs and being kind of timely with that and asking questions is always the best policy. I think most brokers go above and beyond at communications. They have a bunch of resources to create you one-pagers and pamphlets and different strategies. So I just think it's always good to keep it open line out and ask more questions.
Agreed. Thank you so much. Okay, Ryan, one for you. Ryan, what are your thoughts on strategies such as international RX sourcing, as well as alternative funding strategies like PAP programs, PAP?
As mentioned, this Pharmacy Benefits 101, this is certainly I would classify this as a more of a graduate level inquiry. But on a whole, I would classify both, whether it's international sourcing or alternative funding strategies, as more of that PBM disintermediation or a bolt-on service to a core PBM offering. And my thoughts on it are similar to what I described earlier. On one end, is there opportunity for financial value? I think, I'm not sure if transparency really fits with those models based on my experience with them, but is there potential value? Maybe. But understanding the broader implications with the core PBM contract, your philosophy, applicability with regulations are all things that need to be considered before deploying such a program, and having that evaluation done with the assistance of an expert that is able to consider all of these ancillary things is of critical importance.
Excellent, thank you. We also have a question that was submitted prior to the webinar, which we love. So this is also for Ryan. I'm gonna go with that one next. What would be the drug spend for plan sponsors if PBMs lost the ability to use manufacturers' rebates to reduce the cost?
That is a question that I think has a extremely variable answer and potentially an explosive answer. And I think part of that can be corroborated by the fact of some of the proposed drug legislation over the past couple of years has been evaluated on one end to save billions of dollars, and the other end to cost payers billions of dollars. And so I think the shorter answer is we don't fully know. But I think what's critical is, in a world to where rebates in the current paradigm cease to exist, it even more so emphasizes that we better understand what's going on inside of our contract and better stay on top of and negotiate the ability to reevaluate this as things such as potential legislation or loss of rebates can occur. Because if that happens and your contract is not able to be opened up to renegotiate fair financial value, typically the people that make the contract are going to have the upper hand. And so I think ultimately the idea is, in any of these paradigms from a regulatory perspective, the idea of A, understanding your contract, and B, having the ability to renegotiate it on any sort of change in legislation or material change in utilization, is extremely important and ultimately critical to maintaining the financial value of that agreement.
Got it. Thank you so much. Okay, next question, Anthony. My company is considering changing some of our employee benefits due to low utilization company-wide. Do you have any advice for how best to move forward?
I do. It's a great question. So really there's two components to that. And before you consider changing, that there are things that you need to start kind of understanding before you make those changes. One is understanding, is it due to your benefits not resonating with your team, or are they too expensive? Or is it a communication issue? And is it a communication issue on the open enrollment side, or with just new hires? And so those are some things to unpack. But I mean, I think you want to look at communication on the open enrollment side. Are you only communicating around open enrollment season? What type of communications do you have that you can beef up or use more of? Are you doing things like texting? Are you emailing? Do you have hard letters? Are you holding town halls in your organization? So just kind of that communication strategy. And then your onboarding process. So when you bring on a new employee, how in depth do you go at talking about benefits and communicating that? The other piece is, do the benefits you offer align with your population's needs? So, if you're hiring, if most of your population is young versus older, everyone's benefits priorities are a little bit different. So connecting with your broker, asking them questions on how to communicate better, and then asking them to review your census in your population to ensure that your benefits package really resonates with the population of who you employ. So I think there's a bunch of different things to unpack there, but it's really around understanding why you have a low utilization, and whether it's a communication issue or just a benefits offerings issue. And I think you can work with your broker to resolve both of those.
Awesome, thank you. So not scrapping your plan right away.
No. There's some, you got to understand what's going on there. There's definitely a reason for low utilization, communication or benefit strategy for sure.
Excellent. We also just received a question about if this webinar is available for SHRM and HRCI credits. It is indeed. We will have a slide with your activity codes momentarily. Very exciting. Everyone loves their CE credits. Ryan, next one for you. Where do you see the PBM market going in the future? Plan sponsors are demanding transparency. Are PBMs necessary? Is there a better model?
There's a few questions embedded in there.
Yes.
I'll attack that from the one that jumped out at me. Are PBMs necessary? I think for most employers, the answer to that is yes. There are organizations today that run their own PBM. It's not for the faint of heart, is what I would say. So in the purest of constructs, is a PBM necessary? I think the answer to that is yes. Is there a better model, which I think is the natural extension of that question? I think the answer to that is always also going to be yes. What exactly does that look like? So getting into where do I see the market going in the future? I think that remains to be seen, and I'm not conceited enough to pretend that I have all of the answers in this. I think the idea of increasing transparency is fantastic, but as I alluded to a couple times during the presentation, transparency doesn't necessarily equal financial value. And so that's always going to be the ebb and flow. For example, for employers on this call, you may receive a quarterly rebate check. For larger employers, that's millions of dollars per quarter. Some in the marketplace would suggest that those rebates are due to the members that accrue them, right? Your sickest patients. That's not how those rebates are used. Full transparency could be articulated as those rebates should be the members and not subject to the plan. Well, as we most on this call understand, well, if I do that, I have to raise contributions by 25, 30%, and now everybody's going to be unhappy. So what's the right answer? Transparency versus value. It's not a linear relationship necessarily. And so I think it's continuing to carve away at trying to balance that equation is where the most successful organizations have succeeded and will continue to succeed. Excellent
answer. Thank you. Okay, this one is from Andrew, do any of the major PBMs, CVS, ESI, UHC, et cetera, offer a pass-through or fully transparent pricing model?
So short answer to that is yes. Depending upon the definition of pass-through, as I mentioned, again, during the presentation, oftentimes transparency is a spectrum. And so if we're classifying pass-through as the lack of spread pricing, the answer to that is absolutely. All the major PBMs offer that sort of program. If we're moving that paradigm more to the fully transparent model, and again, understanding that still remains a spectrum of what fully transparent means. Many of the largest PBMs offer varying pricing models, which some may classify as fully transparent. So for example, a guaranteed per cost or cost per prescription model, or an acquisition cost model. The larger PBMs sometimes offer those programs to certain clients, so i.e. they are available. But does that truly equal transparency? And ultimately, does that equate to value? As I mentioned in the last answer, the answer to that is much, much more complex. And so short answer is yes, and probably to the direct question. The expanded answer is again, those models in and of themselves, do they equal good for everybody? Maybe is the short answer to that.
Excellent. Okay, I think we have time for just a couple more questions. This one is from Lance. Regarding the BUCAs, what is the largest overall percentage or ratio of claims spend attributable to RX within fully insured health plans? And he specifies large group. Ryan, do you or Anthony want to take that one?
Happy, from my perspective, I would suggest it might be a little bit outside of our typical wheelhouse when it comes to fully insured health plans. So that may be something that we can either potentially do some research and see what we can find, or I'm not sure if Anthony has anything to add through that particular spectrum.
No. I would lead if you want to do some research and respond back, that'd be great.
Great question, Lance. We will follow up with you. Appreciate it. Stumping the host is one of my favorite games to play on webinars. So well done. Okay. Final question for both of you. We covered a lot of material today. Obviously, the common theme between Truveris and Employer Advisor is our commitment to transparency and using data to empower everyone with more information. But if both of you had to pick one thing or one key takeaway that you'd like to leave the audience with today, what would that be? And Anthony, I'll have you go first.
Yeah, so I mean, my takeaway is just ask questions, look for data, truly make sure that your benefit strategy and what you're offering aligns with the competitiveness in your market, your overall hiring and retention strategies, and just overall how you want to provide incentives to your population through health and wellness programs. So ask questions to your brokers, seek out information. We're happy to be a resource of transparency for you as well. But just make sure that you truly understand how your benefits compare and seek answers from your consultants to provide data to those questions.
Ryan?
Great, thanks. From my perspective, I think the key takeaway here is again trying to control those controllables within pharmacy. Human nature, myself included, when things are hard and difficult, it's easier to take care of the other things. I know everybody on this call has a multitude of responsibilities, and the hardest ones that may not extract the most value are the ones that oftentimes it's easy to steer away from. Understand there are mitigation strategies within pharmacy, and it's not solely dependent upon getting into a contract and then picking that thing up 3 years later, right? It's understanding the life cycle and having the proper oversight to ensure that we're extracting value from a given contractual relationship, as well as deploying that oversight when things may not go as planned. So arming yourself with the knowledge and or assistance to do that, I think, is the key takeaway from this conversation.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I think we have one or two more teaser slides for you that we want to leave you with before we head out. Ryan, do you want to take this one away?
Absolutely. So would love to see everybody on this call join us on Tuesday, November 15th, as some of my esteemed colleagues, Dr. Adrian Trudell and Dr. Joe Thomas, discuss the rise of biosimilars and how payers should plan for this 2023 and beyond. As some or most on this call may know, 2023 is a big year in biosimilars. The drug Humira, most of us may be aware of, is subject to biosimilar competition, and the expectation is the market will respond in a significant way. And so this webinar is giving some of our thoughts on how plans may want to prepare themselves for biosimilars in the future and beyond.
Excellent. And then we have a teaser as well. Anthony, do you want to cover this one?
Yeah, so we're in the process of just bringing more data and transparency to the market. And so similar to kind of what Judy Diamond Myers do, we are launching a 5500 data prospecting tool, which has some key unique differentiators from the other tools that are available on the market. And so we're really excited. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us around more information regarding launch times and features. So, but we're really excited. Thank you.
Okay, team, and that is the end of this webinar. Again, thank you so much to Anthony and Ryan for all of their insight, their time. Thank you to everyone who joined this call today. You've really added a lot to the conversation with your thoughtful questions. Again, this webinar will be sent to you afterwards, after it is done later this afternoon. And the team at Employer Advisor in Traveris would love for you guys to keep coming to our webinars, engaging with our content, anything at all. So everyone, just thank you so much. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Ryan.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.